Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Lenny. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this. I mean, it's sunny here in Amsterdam, so on this sunny Friday morning for the Too Late to NIS2 webinar, From Panic to Automated Always On Compliance, a very sexy tagline for a very boring topic, if I do say so myself. First off, thank you, Lenny, and the team at Exclusive Networks for the partnership and getting all of this set up. Always happy to work together on this. But cool, what are we going to talk about today? Well, first off, my name's Andreas. For those who don't know me, I'm the channel business manager here at Drata. I manage the Benelux, Nordics, and DACH region, so quite a big chunk of Europe. For those who really don't know, I'm not American. I am Belgian. This isn't a deep fake voice. I'm not doing this intentionally. This is just the way that I sound in English. So hopefully it sounds like listening to your favorite TV shows, but then we're going to be talking about compliance instead. What we're really going to be covering today is NIS2. And I think most of us have probably been in one too many NIS2 webinars. But the real purpose of today is to take lessons learned from the other regions that we've worked in, regions such as Belgium, where NIS2 has been around for more than a year, and really understand what are the biggest pitfalls, what are the problems that people have run into, and in a sense, how do you not have to reinvent the wheel? How can you already take those lessons and make NIS2 a comfortable, easier experience for your companies in there? So we have a little bit of an agenda. We're going to go over some things, going to give you a little bit of a demo. Then we've also got time for Q&A. I'm only working on a small screen today, so I can't see all of the questions that come up. If I get interrupted for it, maybe I'll answer them then. Otherwise, we'll keep them to the end to answer questions there. But fantastic. Let's start at the beginning, the part that everyone already knows, but just for the purposes of continuity, always need to talk about it as well. What is NIS2? According to Google's AI, when you search it, it's a European directive. Joking aside, what NIS2 is, it's supposed to be a framework or a regulation within the EU that's trying to standardize the way that companies look at cybersecurity and interact on a cybersecure method, right? In a sense, what happened was twofold in the past. One, the regulators or the EU saw that more and more EU companies were getting connected together. There was this interconnectivity, offices across one another, how deeply people were working together. And they noticed that, well, if people are critical to one another and these are critical to our economy, if someone in Belgium goes down, there's a very high chance that one of the companies in Sweden might go down as well. So what they were trying to do is standardize that way of working so that there's not this knock-on effect of everyone being knocked out and that the general digital resiliency stays high. The second part of NIS2 is a little bit more negative. And the thing that regulators noticed is that companies were outsourcing their risk and their cybersecurity posture. Right? We've all heard the case that cybersecurity is a cost center, not a business driver. And this is what a lot of companies saw as well. They would build complex structures and they would point the finger to different areas where they were outsourcing their IT risk. So if something happened to your company in Sweden, but you have outsourced all of your IT to another country, you could point the finger there. Maybe you don't get blamed for it because you have spent money and shown that, one, you're invested, but two, it's not on your territory. So regulators wanted to connect this together and say, hey, even if you make the decision to outsource your IT, that still comes back to you in a lot of ways. Who you work with, what you do, what you're looking at, all comes down to your C-level, your leadership in here. So that's really what the point of NIS2 was here. Now, as the astute of you will have noticed, the name of the webinar is obviously Too Late for NIS2. Yesterday, NIS2 went live in Sweden. So if you're not all up to speed, that's what this webinar is for. But so what we're going to do today is really understand what are the best things that you can do to get started in NIS2. And now from speaking with a lot of different companies, from having done this long enough, what a lot of people do when they start out looking at a compliance program, maybe starting new or needing to do a different framework, is they're going to go to a consultant. Now, I work for a company that has unlimited money, so I'm able to go to the best consultants on the market. Right, so I'm going to go to these consultants and I'm going to find the best possible information. And that's what we're going to do today in this presentation. So I'm going to go to my very expensive consultant. Apparently they're called Gemini. Never heard of her. But so she's my very expensive consultant today, and she's going to help me to get all of my NIS2 going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the important questions that I need to know. And to start with, I'm just going to ask it what NIS2 is. Now, in this webinar, I've already told you what NIS2 is, but you can see very similar information in here as well. Major European Union law, it talks about these things. It's a directive. We're really focusing on these kind of things. But there is some important information that you need to know with regards to NIS2. First and foremost, what kind of entity are you? Are you essential or are you important? Because that changes the level of work that you're going to need to be doing. What you also need to understand are some of the key requirements that you're looking at. Things like corporate accountability and governance, risk management, your third-party risk management, and general obligations. You also should probably know how much it's going to cost you if you don't do these things. Today, NIS2 is often already regarded as sort of the GDPR of cybersecurity. And that's true to a certain degree, but what we also have to remember is that the EU learned a lot about GDPR and a lack of enforcement, right? We can all joke that GDPR isn't really enforced that heavily, but I still have yet to find a European website I go on that isn't spamming me with questions about my cookies and what information they're tracking about me. NIS2 is only going to be heavier in this. And you can see that in terms of the fines, and we'll come back to these fines in a little bit later as well. So now we know what NIS2 is. Now I, as a company who needs to implement NIS2 a day late, I'm going to start asking the important questions. Like, how do I implement NIS2? Right? Again, I'm using this very expensive consultant who's telling me the work that I need to do. Oh, well, this is a terrible first sentence. This is not a one and done project. You mean I can't just fill in a sheet or a form and say I've done all of the things in my company? No, I need to look for fundamental change in how I operate and organize my risks. I need to look at all of these important things about structure of my company, the way that we do things. I need to make sure that the board believes in cybersecurity and in compliance. Never met a board member that really believes in those things, so that's already going to be a challenge. I need to make people responsible. People don't want this responsibility. I need to start looking at all hazards risk assessments. I need to be doing asset inventories. And this is just the start. A lot of this are things that a lot of companies are probably already doing today to certain degrees. Looking at a gap analysis, understanding your risks, talking in board meetings. So it might be difficult and might not be too difficult, but they are still things that you need to set up and create a trail on. Now, below in this step 3, we're talking about the real crux of NIS2. Under NIS2, you have what's called Article 21. Article 21 is really where you have the practical security controls, right? The top 10, as they call them, the 10 minimum measures here of what you need to be doing as a company, right? So they talk about things like your policies, and they talk about things like incident handling, your cyber hygiene, cryptography, things like MFA. They're talking about all these individual things, and they're saying, well, in general, you need to know that you're looking at vulnerabilities, or you need to know that you're doing network security. Okay, well, this tells me in broad terms what I should be doing, but how do I prove it? How do I go a step further? What should I really understand here? And then one of the important parts as well here that we see in step 5 is this continuous monitoring. We started off by saying this isn't a one and done project. This is a fundamental change to your company. Understanding where you are with regards to NIS2 every day, every week, every month, whatever you feel comfortable with. But so what I have now from my very expensive consultant is I've built a checklist. I've built a list of the individual things that I need to do. So in theory, if I just make an Excel sheet and I just go down it, I can be NIS2 compliant really quickly. Maybe I don't have enough information yet. So these 10 points, right, it just tells me, are there backups? Is there disaster recovery? That's not enough information for me to really get buy-in internally. So I'm going to ask, please expand on Article 21 and make it an itemized list that I can follow. What I've now asked it to do is translate Article 21 into more practical terms. What are the individual things that you are asking me, and how am I going to prove to the Swedish government at this point that I am indeed compliant with these things? So here I have it, Article 21. Right? AI always has this great way of saying things like mandatory security checklist. Oh, sorry, I said AI. I meant my expensive consultant. But what it's telling me here to do is, okay, start with your risk analysis, have a risk management framework. And it's telling me I could follow ISO 27005. Okay, that's good. It wants policies. It's talking about my incident response plans. It's asking me about notification times, my policies. Okay, I might need to dive in, understand what needs to be included in this policy, what sort of the breadth of information, who needs to look at it, who needs to work on it, together with things like a DR plan. And then it can continue going on like this, talking about the policies, the audits, pen testing I need to do, and all of this information. This is already better. I have a decent list that I can go through and understand what kind of information am I looking for and how should I be following this information. Right? I can get more information in this and I can dive deeper. But what I've learned from AI, my expensive consultant, with regards to NIS2 right now, is that I need to make my board and the company accountable, and I need to work on my governance there. It's also saying I need to go continuously monitor security controls. And it's also mentioned things around third-party risk management in here, somewhere up here as well, talking about who you're working with and how you're doing that. But just to double check, I'm also going to ask it about this. What about third-party risk management with regards to NIS2? I know this is part of it. Talks about my tier 1, tier 2, and maybe even tier 3 vendors in here. Here we go. Article 21, 2D, right? Understanding direct suppliers, how I work with them, implementing all of this information. So now what I've done is I've covered the 3 sort of top asks of NIS2: governance, accountability, third-party risk management, continuous monitoring. Okay, I know in theory what I need to go do now, right? I need to get into my company. I need to organize all of this information. I need to get buy-in from people. I need to go continuously gather evidence on all of this and track it in a way that I can get through an audit whenever and however I want to. That sounds doable to a sense. Now, I'm using this very expensive consultant, so let's see if I can get my money's worth. Okay, please automate this all for me. Let's see if Google Gemini is smart enough in order to go and automate this for me, gathering my evidence, making people accountable, and doing all of this stuff. Oh, well, this is already a bad start. Google can't physically log into my systems and do the things for me? That's crazy. What do you mean it can't do all of these things for me? Right? What it's telling me to do is, hey, go set up a lot of meetings, get information, brief people constantly, go look at different types of tools, different types of information, look at a way that I can do this. Please go continuously monitor my controls. I don't know why this expensive consultant isn't listening to me. But this is what you end up running into. I can have the theory in my head of how NIS2 is started, but that doesn't mean I have an effective way in order to do this. If I want to make people accountable and increase governance, I need to get buy-in from the company. I need to make it in a digestible way that people don't have to work through a million tickets or fill in individual spreadsheets. For continuously monitoring controls, I can't realistically ask my infrastructure team, my identity team, my networking team, and all the others to take screenshots of every tool every day, understand what the problem is, and tell me how it relates to NIS2. For all my third parties, I can't sit there continuously looking at a spreadsheet of every third party we've ever used that might have an impact on our uptime, and then constantly ask them questions. My job isn't just NIS2. My job could be much broader. I might be the IT manager. I might be the CISO. I might be the partner that's already doing a full SOC service. So how am I supposed to manage all this? I need to find a way through these kind of things in order to get this kind of information. And you can see here, even Google Gemini is talking about things like Drata. It's talking about different types of tools that you can use in order to look at this. What this entire sort of exercise is meant to be is to show you that AI doesn't have all of the answers. It can make a translation, it can give you some steps to do, but good luck doing all of it and good luck figuring out the best way to do it. This is where something like Drata comes in. Lenny started this webinar by talking about Drata being a GRC platform, a trust management platform, and doing all of these things. Now, I'm not going to give you a full demo, deep dive into absolutely everything, but I am going to cover the 3 major points. I'm going to talk about governance and accountability. I'm I'm going to talk about continuous monitoring of controls, and I'm going to talk about third-party risk management and how you can ease those burdens. So let's start here with Drata. As you can see, we're a SaaS tool. We have this native multi-tenancy with different entities that are in here that I can click between and see different frameworks. And what we've done in the back end is we've connected into our tech stack. So I've connected into things like an Azure environment for infrastructure. I've connected to things like an identity provider, maybe ticketing systems, vulnerability scanning systems, device management systems. And I've connected into all of these and they're running tests in the background. But what am I fundamentally going to do in Drata? I'm going to manage my frameworks. Now you see in this environment, I have a whole list of different frameworks turned on, from DORA, another important EU regulation, ISO 27001 GDPR, and also NIS2. You'll see here, this says pre-release. It's not that it's not actually finalized, it's just that the different European countries are doing it slightly differently. One of the big changes, and I put changes in brackets, is that Sweden is stricter on how broad NIS2 needs to be scoped. In other countries, such as Belgium, there are rules where you are able to segment parts of your business. So if you have part of your business that is essential, part of it that is not, if you can show that there is a divide between those things, you do not need to be NIS2 compliant on the latter half. In Sweden, the theory is that if any part of your business is deemed essential, then every part of your business is deemed essential. These are all differences that you can have in Drata. But what you see here is I have this framework. So immediately I'm talking about accountability. There is no reason that someone director level and up who will be responsible for NIS2 and have personal liability cannot know every single day or every single week or whenever you meet in order to talk about cybersecurity where you are with compliance. That they can't get this screenshot that says, today we're 8% compliant. And we expect to be 50% compliant by next month. And we expect to be 80% compliant the month after. There's no reason, because in here, we're tracking all of this live through those tests and through those controls. So this is already a very easy step to take control and understanding of what you're doing. Now, if I click in a step deeper here, I can actually go into that framework. And realistically, what I'm going to show you is that translation that I just used AI to make, right? Where I clicked in and I said, hey, translate NIS2 and show me all of that information. Tell me what those practical steps look like. So I can go in here and I see Article 20, which talks about that management responsibility. And I can see what NIS2 is specifically asking for, right? We establish what kind of entity we are. We look at risk management systems and do all of this. But then I've already built 3 different controls that are automatically telling you, if you do these 3 things, you will answer 20.1. So if an auditor comes by, if and when they come by, you will already have this answered. I can then go deeper and go into this Article 21, the actual security measures that are in here. And I can go click on any of these, like cyber hygiene and cybersecurity training. Okay, 21.2G. Again, this is what NIS2 asks for. And I've already translated the individual things that I might need to be doing for this. Different controls that have a different level of ownership, but I know at every level where I am. So here I can already see a little bit more of that understanding, the governance, the control of this, and how I'm looking at it. Now, if I dive into the controls themselves, I'll see a few important things that Drata helps with. Right? If I'm forced to do NIS2 today, there's a chance that I already have another compliance program, that I'm running things like ISO 27001, SOC 2, Swedish specific ones in there as well. Or it could be that I haven't done anything in the past and now I need to. Well, in Drata, we've already built in this overlap. The rules and controls that are relevant for NIS2 might be relevant for all of this other work as well. So if I have this, if I'm tracking it, then I can just do it once and document it many times. Again, saving me a lot of time to become compliant. But if I click on any of these controls, I'm going to really start understanding that accountability and that governance piece. If I need to talk about something like an acceptable use policy for an audit, they're not just going to ask me if I have it and show them a version of the document. They're going to start asking me a lot of questions about it. What's in it? Who wrote it? When did you write it? Did you make changes? When did you make changes? Why did you make those changes? Who approved those changes? Who in your organization had to go sign this policy because they might have access to something that needs an acceptable use policy? And I can just keep going and asking questions. So what we've done in Drata is I've centralized that information. I've said, here's my policy about acceptable use. And for that, I might have the actual policy. And I can edit this in Drata. I can have ownerships to it. I can see immediately who's done this work, when the renewal date is, which version we're on, and the like. There might be separate evidence that I need to upload. An architecture diagram, an organizational diagram, a picture of the doors to show physical access controls. I might have multiple owners for this because a policy is never the responsibility of one person. It's probably someone in IT, someone in legal, someone in HR, someone of director level or up who needs to look at it. Maybe there's someone who's going to do an approval on this, and I'm going to add them as one of the owners. Maybe that's Addy. Addy is now one of the owners of this control. So now I have multiple people who know they need to be looking at this, who are getting individual tasks assigned to them that you can trigger in things like Microsoft Teams or email to tell them, hey, here's a compliance gap, we need to go fill it. And this is the power of something like Drata. This is making that accountability front and center. So I can centralize all this information, the policies, the controls, the policies, the evidence, things like the automated tests and approvers that are all in here, and I can scope these throughout my company as I want. Now, if it's NIS2, as we just said in Sweden, this is going to be the entire company. But if you're in another region where maybe there's a little bit of leeway, it might be that certain departments, entities, or regions have slightly different rules associated to them. One of the other things that you can see in here, as I mentioned, are these tests, right? Because what I've done now is I've already assigned accountability and a level of governance. I've already said people are responsible for different tasks within Drata. But how am I going to continuously prove that I have tests running? Well, for something like a policy, it's going to be a little bit boring, but pretty simple to do. I can say, well, do I have an acceptable use policy? Do I have it, and is it within the renewal date? The other question will be, have my employees signed it? Which could also be a very simple question to ask. But this will be running every day, proving whether or not we've done this based on identities, based on systems, whatever it might be. But I have way more tests than this. Out of the box, I can do just shy of 150 different tests across things in my infrastructure. You can see some of them here, things like CPU use monitoring for my databases, encryption on my databases, zone redundancies, cloud storage buckets versioning, right? I can look at other things like MFA, personnel offboarding, you name it, formal code review processes that are done in things like GitHub and GitLab. And I can click on any of these and see what kind of information is there. I don't need to convince someone to take a screenshot to fill cell E27 in an Excel sheet every day so that I can see if we're compliant or not. I have a platform that's running this and giving me the information. So I can click on MFA. I can see how long we've been failing. I can see how many failures there are, and I can see if we're managing those well. We're not. We don't have a ticket open, so no one's looking at this. Not only that, but I can go in and I can click on each individual failure, understand what's gone wrong, how we can go fix it, and more importantly, see the proof. This is a JSON output. We've put it through a test in order to see if it follows the logic that we need. This test is looking for avatar and avatar sources, meaning that we're looking for the avatar that says MFA is turned on, and it's not, which means I can prove for AJ that MFA is not turned on. It's not company-wide, it's individual resources that we're looking for, because this is how cybersecurity breaks. Not the giant things, but these small things that people get in. And we track this kind of evidence through history. So I can see every single date that I've had Drata on, and I'll just click to the back here, from the 15th of November when we started this demo environment, I can see every passing test. This is important because in NIS2, you don't control your audit anymore. The auditor does, the government does. If you are an essential entity under NIS2, they can come do proactive audits when they want to. How regularly will that be? That's anyone's guess. But essentially, they want to turn companies into restaurants. They want to be able to knock on your door and say, hi, open up your kitchen to prove if you're healthy. That's what they want to do with a company. They want to say, hey, Let us see if MFA is turned on for everyone. By the way, we're not actually checking today, or we're not checking of yesterday. We might be checking from a few months ago. Maybe there was a breach then. Maybe that's just when we're asking for a timeline, and I need to know what's gone on. Do you know? I don't. I hardly know what I did yesterday. I don't know what I did 6 months ago. But here I have that information tracked, stored, and retained. I have an entire audit trail that's built by automating a lot of these processes. The theory is pretty simple, right? I would have this, I see a problem, I create a ticket, which will go to the team that needs it. Maybe that's a Jira ticket or a ServiceNow ticket. They would then go fix this and say, hey, Andreas is really smart. He spotted all these things. Let's go fix it. And the next time I run this test, everyone's compliant. So this test goes green and says you're doing a good job. And then I can go into the controls and I can see that some more controls are green because the test is passing. Great. And then I can see in my frameworks that the framework number is going up, which means that I'm more compliant. It's very gamified. Number go up, dopamine go up. Right? It's pretty simple. But this is how we help speed up things like NIS2, ISO, and all of these other frameworks. So now what I've shown you is that governance and accountability, and I've shown you continuous monitoring. So what about third-party risks? Well, under NIS2, you either have to go to 2 tiers or you have to go to 3 tiers of your third parties. This is something that Drata helps with as well. Based on your connectors and based on whoever you upload as a third party, you can track all of this information in here. I can take this fictitious company of Acme AI, and I can store all of the information I need about them. Which business unit they're related to, impact levels, risk levels, how many risks are associated to it. I understand what these things are relevant for, who my contacts are, what they're doing, what my spend is with them. This is all crucial information for a third-party risk management system. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to have recurring reviews of them. So I've set this up that once a year I'm sending them a review based on questionnaires that I've uploaded into Drata. And I'm sending it to this person at this interval. So I know when I'm expecting new information. And the real good part is, because of Drata, we also have AI that can read out all of this information. So I don't need to read through my own security reviews the entire time. I can use AI in order to make callouts on this and say, hey, what did they answer here? Oh, they're really US-centric. That might be an issue for me. Or they're using Heroku. That might be an issue for me. Or there's callouts in here that they had a security incident, but all they said was they fixed it. I don't know what the issue was. I don't know how they fixed it, and I need to know this. And from here, I can then go and immediately associate a risk, score that risk, and provide a mitigation plan and connect it to controls. That's already powerful. I can already map out who my third parties are, what they're doing, have continuous reviews on them, and then be provided with insights into that information. But that's still quite manual. That's still going around checking, asking questions. Maybe I use someone like Fortinet, and maybe Fortinet won't answer my questions, which means I need to go find that information. Otherwise, I am liable. Well, luckily, Fortinet has this thing called a trust center. So maybe I am looking for this information. Maybe I need to prove if they have ISO 27001, which is something that is a requirement or a best practice under NIS2 to understand if your third parties have this. Well, luckily, I can go find this information and I can just go immediately read about their ISO audit. Here's that information. Excellent. Maybe I need to see other information. I want to read their ISO 9001. I want to see their certificate of insurance because we're third parties and they're critical for me and maybe it'll be their fault. And I need to know that I'm still protected. They have that information. Maybe I want to read about their third parties, which I also need to be able to track and know. Well, now I have access to all of this information. This is because they use things like a trust center and things like Drata. And you can go there straight from Drata. You see these little logos here. Let's say I use Datadog. I can go to theirs and I can go further. Even with this, we still feel this is quite manual. Something that's currently in beta is what we're calling our TPRM AI. What it actually is an agentic AI that will be doing all of this searching on third parties in trust centers automatically. That in Drata, I can just say, hey, go find me this information related to NIS2. And all of the third parties listed who have trust centers, it will automatically go there and ask this information and provide you with insights into all of these things. Meaning that you're not reliant on once every 6 months, once a year, hopefully getting a review or hopefully having time to check, it can continuously be looking at these things for you to understand if there are risks within your supply chain. And this is the power of something like Drata. What we have next to this as well, right, is the other side of this coin. I've now told you how to manage your third parties. Question is, they might be coming for you. Any Drata customer has access to build a trust center like this, that you can have trust.mycompany.com. Not only will you have a place where you can talk about your NIS2 and lower the amount of questionnaires that you get, but you can also use this for things like notifying important parties, being able to say if there were breaches, if things happened, that for all of your third parties, that they are aware of things that are changing or happening. This is one of the notification methods that you can use, which means that all of the questionnaires you might be getting, all of the inbound things that you need to do regarding third parties, you can also help automate and save time. This is the power of something like Drata, giving you control over your governance and accountability, your continuous monitoring, and your third parties. So now we'll go back to this. And again, let's cover the 3 topics that my very expensive consultant spoke about. Right? Governance and accountability, check. Continuous evidence monitoring, check. TPRM, check, check. It's almost like I designed this to give a lot of check marks here. You can trust me, or you can trust the statistics. We're one of the fastest growing companies of all time. In under 4 years, we did over 100 mil ARR. We're blowing past that as well. Look, I know compliance is a very boring topic, but we try to minimize the boring parts and maximize the outcomes. You can trust those numbers, or you can trust customer statistics. Some of you might have seen this slide before, but it's always nice to talk about. We have companies that are saving 60 to 80% of their total time on compliance. Companies that are seeing increased sales efficiency because compliance is becoming such a talked about portion. Companies will not do business with other companies who can't prove NIS2, who can't prove ISO, who can't prove these things, which means doing it and being proactive about it is a way to drive business.